2019 is the year I pledged to play through the Castlevania franchise and record my journey through these vlogs, culminating in one big video review at the end. And now on to entry 16, Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Welcome back everybody to another Castlevania Diary, and thank you so much for sticking with me this long into something that I honestly thought would have been wrapped up by the end of 2019, and here we are now 4 months into 2020, and there's still quite a few games to finish. This is going to take more than a year to get through. But anyways, today I want to talk to you about Castlevania Lament of Innocence, and there's a lot around this game. This is a PlayStation 2 game, so we're taking another leap forward in the gaming generation. Now we've got a little bit more motions and 3D engines and stuff. A huge leap forward from the N64, but let's just get our bearings. I've just gone through 3 Metroidvanias on the Game Boy Advance, which, favorite genre, good platform, I like the graphics, that art style. To go back at this point to the 3D realm of Castlevania after the shit show that was Nintendo 64 games, my expectations, they weren't very high, but everybody was telling me, everybody, like, that's 2-3 people, were saying Lament of Innocence is the origin story in the Castlevania timeline. It's where you learn where things happen. You know what? There's going to be spoilers in this video. This is like a 20-year-old game. I'm going to talk about everything. So if you were hoping not to hear about the spoilers, this ain't the video for you. So going into this game, I was expecting a lot from a lore standpoint, and I was expecting very little from gameplay standpoint. And I'm just going to be jumping right into this. I don't have notes today, so it's all going to be off the top of my head, but there was a lot of good in this game, but there was a lot of bad. Starting off with, let's just start with the main character that you play, Leon. Great character. I love his design. I love, you know, the look they gave him. I love the world building. It's not much of a world building. You go into a castle just like every other game. For the PlayStation 2 era, it looked good. I like the fact that we're like in like super old medieval, like pre-medieval times, or probably right in medieval times. And then beyond that, you know, after you see the initial aesthetics, the next thing you notice is the gameplay. And this is a huge change from what I was experiencing on the Nintendo 64 Castlevania games. You know, on Nintendo 64 Castlevania, you had a very basic attack. You had the whip, or you had the magic bullet, or you had the other like claw attack, depending on who you played with. In this one, it's only Leon, always Leon, 100% Leon all the time. And it's a little bit more like action adventure, which seeing the games in 2020 that are coming out, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's an action adventure game now, and hey, they do it well. So I wasn't that opposed to this new mechanic. I like that the more enemies you kill, the more abilities you unlock. So the concept is good. Where they completely messed up, oh, and before that, actually targeting enemies and fighting enemies is way more rewarding in Lament of Innocence compared to the N64 one. There's a sense of controlling the room, controlling the pacing. There's a block mechanic, a parry mechanic, and all these mechanics work very well to make you feel like you're getting more powerful. The more that you as a player learn how to combo and make these work the controls of the game. So that's A+. Anyways, it's good. Where it's bad is the freaking camera, and this was something that plagued the PlayStation 2 era library of games. I remember like Kingdom Hearts was had a huge issue with cameras, and just so many games at that time. The game designers didn't really, I think, understand how to work cameras properly. I don't know why, because like Mario 64 did it so well, and that was in 1996, so I don't know. But in this game, the camera is fixed. No matter, like, you enter a room and the camera is fixed. So you're always going to be running either towards or from the camera. And sometimes there's the camera and you have to run like, so you have the screen and you have to like run towards yourself, towards the camera, so you don't see if there's an enemy behind there. And sometimes you can be walking right into a guy who's about to like throw an axe in your face. And that is so frustrating. That is so stupid. That is bad design. If I could have just had the right joystick to move the camera around, this game would have went from like a C to a very strong B contender, maybe even a B+. So the camera was definitely the worst. Outside of that, the next thing I always like to talk about is the difficulty curve and the bosses. And in this game, they struck, I think, a really good balance The difficulty curve of the enemies is smooth. I never felt like I was thrown into a room unfairly. I always felt the camera was unfair, but when it came time to fight enemies and how many hits they took and how much damage they dealt to me, it felt fair. Honestly, I liked it. And the bosses were reasonable too. I died once or twice, and through that I was learning the pattern and the mechanic, and I was able to study the boss and then go back in and beat them. And all the bosses were pretty fair. Even there's an optional boss after you complete the game. Oh my goodness, I just remembered. The final boss of the game, spoiler, which is death. Freaking death. Like, ever since Castlevania 1, I have hated that character. It has been the bane of my Castlevania runs, and here he is tough. I think I spent half hour to an hour just going back and forth trying to fight him. And most walkthroughs say, oh, you have to grind this like super rare item that lets you be invincible, because he has this stupid attack that basically if he hits you 2 or 3 times with it, you're dead. And every boss in this game has 2 life bars for some reason. And they have different stages where, you know, as you deplete their life bars, they start having more attacks. And death has this really stupid one at the halfway point that's like, it just destroys your HP. So I was really, really proud of fighting him without using that grind mechanic, because I don't got time for that. I just doubled down, studied his pattern, with a bit of luck, managed to beat him. And that's gonna go down as one of my best gamer memories probably in my life until I forget about it. But then after that, there's an optional boss, the forgotten one, which is in the basement of the castle. I did not beat that guy because after doing the whole death thing, I was like, I'm not ready for another boss like this. It's a 3-stage boss where you like gotta fight some maggots dropping off his body, and then you gotta like beat up his meat sack, and then you gotta go up, and then you gotta fight his fists, and then you gotta go up and you gotta fight its mouth. I made it to stage 3, and then he like barfed on me and killed me, 1-hit kill. I'm like, no, I'm not signing up for this. I'm good. I don't need to do this. It's optional. There's a reason for it. I'm done. Whenever a Castlevania gives you an optional challenge, you don't take it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. This is the franchise that if you like punishment, they're like, we have a lot of punishment for you, sir. And I'm like, no, thanks. Just the one playthrough, punishment enough for me. Thank you. But otherwise, the other bosses in the game felt fun. They were fair. I had a good time with it. It was fun. There's like 5 worlds that you go into, plus the like 6th world, which is the final one. And they're all good and fun, except the stupid water one. Why is it always the water level? That sucks. It's not even really a water level. It's like you're in the sewers or something, and you have to like make the water flow change at one point. And it's stupid. I got lost. I got backtracked, and then I got stuck. It's the worst. And the enemies in there, they were the worst too. Whenever there's water in games, like, I don't know what it is with games, video games and water, but they don't go together. Just stop putting water in video games. It's annoying. Nobody likes it. It's the worst thing ever. Just, you know, let's stay on dry land or snow or space, anything else. Outside of that, you have upgrades for your whip, which I liked. I like that you have to fight optional side bosses. I was hoping that the game would let you upgrade the whip through like collecting materials. That's not really there. You just, after a few bosses, you go back to the shop. You can buy armor. I really wish that was fleshed out more and that you could have customized. I heard like that the lore was about the whip and that there was a lot about the whip. Okay, let's talk about the lore. The lore is non-existent until a 5-minute cutscene at the end of the game. Literally, you don't know what you're doing. Mostly, that's not fair. You're saving your girlfriend. That's the plot. And then at the end, you learn that she got bit by vampires, so you can't save her. And then she kills herself and she becomes the whip. That is the lore. You get the origins of the whip, which is your girlfriend sacrifices herself so she can become a whip for you, for the Belmonts, for the rest of eternity. And it also sets up the Belmont Dracula, but they don't say it's Dracula thing for the rest of eternity, which is cool. But honestly, I probably would have gone the same like emotional reaction if I just watched a YouTube video instead of going through this game. But that's not the point. So if you're going to play this game for the lore, it's going to be a big disappointment. That's all I want to say. Otherwise, I was playing this on the PlayStation 3, which you can see right here, and this was another big challenge for me. I picked the PlayStation 3 specifically so I could stream it. So I went on the PlayStation Network, got the PlayStation 2 game emulated on the PlayStation 3. And holding a PlayStation 3 controller just feels terrible after years of getting used to the DualShock 4 controller. It felt stubby. I don't know if my controller was busted, but like the the menu is accessed through the right thumbstick, and I kept bumping into it, so I was like using potion when I was trying to run around bosses. It was just frustrating. And all of the equipments and stuff is all done through that quick menu, so sometimes I was unequipping my armor, unequipping my whip, and I'm pretty sure some of it was because the controller was a little wonky, but also just I just wish they didn't do that. The design of the PlayStation 3 controller, I just don't remember it being that bad. So there was a bit of a learning curve for me there, but I do think this controller was busted, which added a whole other level of bullshit to this entire playthrough. Otherwise, if I put myself in the mindset of a Castlevania fan in like 2003 or whatever year it came out, this would have been a huge step forward, especially for the 3D formula of Castlevania. I don't necessarily think Castlevania fans, if I was a fan at that time, I would have liked it. I would have leaned way more towards the 2D games, but this was a big step forward for the 3D games. And it's the first time I've played a retro game in recent memory where I said, wow, this game is ripe for a remaster. Not because it's memorable or because it's good, but because the ideas and the concepts that they had in this game were very good and very ambitious for its time, but they were poorly executed because either of the limitation of the system or because they just didn't have the same design philosophies and techniques back then. If you brought that game into the present, you give it HD graphics, you flesh out, you don't even really need to flesh out the combat system that much, but you just add a movable camera and you flesh out the lore with a little bit more characters and stuff. It's a game that honestly you could really build upon and create a whole new experience while still respecting the source material. And this is the first game where I'm like, wow, this could really build a remake. Like the N64 games, honestly, we can leave those in the past. But this one, especially being the root of the whole Castlevania lore, let's redo it. Let's do it good. Let's build up some side characters. Let's make that damn camera move. Add a few more bosses if you want. A few more levels. And it would be a great game. Do I think Konami will ever do that? No, they won't, because, they don't like money. But I would do that if I owned the franchise. So anyways, overall, that is my experience. I don't know, what is the next one? I forget the name, but the next 3D game is going to be Castlevania. It's on the Xbox and PS2. It's the last one before we go into a whole different IP, which is the Lord of Shadows IP. And that one I'm struggling just to secure a copy, and then there's also the DS games, which I'm really looking forward to, but I'm struggling to find those as well. So we're going to be jumping over to the spiritual successor of Castlevania, which is the Bloodstained games, just for a bit, and then we're going to come back because it's a little bit more difficult to source these games while I'm in quarantine, but we're going to be back on the next Castlevania Diary with a Bloodstained impression, and then we're going to loop back and do all the other Castlevania stuff. So I'll see you guys then, and until then, keep it classy.